Yo, what's up guys? AFC Udino here and welcome to a new video. Today we are breaking down the Pokemon rankings by creating a tier list for PokeMMO PvP Season 14 OU ranked. That's a mouthful. So basically what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to drag each of these Pokemon into a specific tier, into a specific box I think they belong in. So remember guys, this list is based on my personal experience and opinion. If you have a different opinion on certain mons, that's completely fine. You can even let us know in the comments down below, but please stay respectful. Keep the conversation respectful. Because once again guys, it's an opinion. And if you hate it, then I invite you to create your own tier list, make a video on it, and see how other people respond to that one. But yeah, I think just sharing our experiences is a good way for others to improve. So if you have any additions, let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, that's it for the intro guys. Let's start by explaining every tier before we are going to drag these Pokemon. Okay, we're going to be starting with the S tier. These are the top dogs, definitely the best Pokemon in the tier. They perform really well pretty much always, and they can fit on pretty much any team as well. It doesn't really matter what playstyle. Even if you play stall, they probably fit on it. If you play offense, they will fit on it. If you play balance, they can fit on it. Really versatile, and like I said, top performers, and that will probably be reflected on their win rates as well. I haven't really looked too much into the win rates, but I think I can confidently say that these Pokemon will probably have a good win rate with a pretty high usage rate as well. Like, you need to prepare for these Pokemon when team building. They are pretty much meta defining. Next one, we have A tier. These are also very strong Pokemon, just a bit below S tier, because these Pokemon do need a specific way of building. They can still fit in to a lot of teams, really versatile, will perform probably really well, but these Pokemon do need their movesets and stuff adjusted to fit the team, basically, to basically have the same impact as an S tier Pokemon. B tier. These are very reliable choices. They might have a few weak spots, but with the right approach, they can hold their own and dominate battles as well. And these ones, you also really gotta think of. A bit below A tier, still really solid, and in a lot of cases you cannot really go wrong with it, but you do need to build well. C tier, I call these hidden gems, because they can shine bright. They can do really well if you know what you are doing and how to use them. You might call this niche, but I think it's a bit better than niche. These are Pokemon that can be really scary, but you gotta know what you're doing, and they won't fit in every team. They need specific teams to work. And lastly, we have the D tier. Here's where it gets interesting, because these are really niche picks. They have something unique to offer, but there are often others that do the same job, but better. They are fun to experiment. With, but yeah, like I said, there are usually stronger options. And generally, I would advise to stay away from these picks. But yeah, that's basically the explanation on each tier, guys. Now, let's go right into the fun stuff. Okay guys, the way I'm going to do this is by starting from the top left. But before we do that, I think it's probably the best to look at what I think is probably right now the best Pokemon. In terms of consistency and versatility, it has to be an S tier Pokemon that can fit into pretty much any team and do well throughout multiple matches. And the one Pokemon I have in mind, what I think at the moment is the most versatile, most consistent Pokemon, is going to be Dragonite. Because Dragonite, with the addition of the multi-skill ability, makes it such an annoying threat to deal with. In a lot of cases, you'll find it on Hyper Offense with a Rapid Spinner Starmie, but you can find it on Stall as well, because Dragonite has a lot of utility. He can use supportive moves like Heal Bell, which, as a defensive Pokemon, his defensive stats are also really well. He can fit on Balanced, running a Choice Band set. He can fit on a lot of teams. He can even run a special set with Draco Meteor or Mixed. It's always a guess what kind of Dragonite you're going to face. And if you guess wrong, then it can cost you a lot, because if you expect a Dragonite Dragon Dancing up and he drops a Draco Meteor with a Dragon Jam boost on you and you die, it can cost you a lot. Like, I think this Pokemon doesn't matter. Even a beginner can use this mon. The multi-skill ability makes it just so freaking nice. There's not even it gets a free Dragon Dances because of it in a lot of cases, but it can also get off a big nuke, like a strong attack like Draco Meteor, Choice Band, and Dragon Claw, on things that are supposed to be able to kill him. He can do it against stuff like Garchomp, for example, because the multi-skill halves the damage he takes when he's full HP. So if he takes a super effective Dragon type attack, he in a lot of cases will still live. He can attack into an Hydreigon. Like, there are very few things that can one-shot it from full HP. Mainly ice moves can do it, probably, like a Choice Banded Icicle Spear, or Icicle Crash from Weavile or Mamoswine. Yeah, such a reliable ability, and I really think this is the best Pokemon in PokeMMO right now. Like, if you don't know what you want to play and you want something good, then Dragonite should come to mind. However, now I'm gonna start with Aerodactyl. And honestly, guys, Aerodactyl, I put him into the D tier. Just because Aerodactyl doesn't provide anything else but Stealth Rock. If you use it for anything else, there are better options. Like, he has a really high speed stat. His attack stat is decent, but he doesn't have access to strong moves. Like, the base powers on his moves are mediocre, unless you want to rely on Stone Edge. But if you want to do that, you can. You have other options you can rely on. The Renatar. But yeah, the only time you would use him is probably on Hyper Offense when you want to use Stealth Rock. But even then, he's fallen off quite a bit. But yeah, like I said, it's a niche pick. Usually, it's better to stay away from it. However, I think as a Stealth Rock Suicide lead on Hyper Offense, he's still really solid because he pretty much outspeeds the whole metagame aside from Ninjask and Electrode. And speed dying, of course. But he can get up Stealth Rock, he has access to Taunt. He has access to support moves like Tailwind. He can use Rock Tomb, I believe. He can even run Flamethrower to hit Scissor and stuff. But yeah, other than that, I don't think it's a good Pokemon. Next up, we have Amoonguss, and yeah, it's really early already, but I'm gonna put Amoonguss into the S tier. Amoonguss is one of the Pokemon of the real defensive Pokemon that makes use of Regenerator right now. Like, I will explain later, but Mienshao is another one. But other than that, you don't have many defensive Regenerator Pokemon that are viable in OU. Like, you have stuff like Audino, perhaps. But Amoonguss is one of the consistent ones. and his typing is so amazing. Gets rid of a lot of weaknesses, like the poison typing and the grass typing, like a fighting resist to the team, and due to the grass type, he's neutral. Takes neutral damage from Earthquake, which could make him reliable against stuff like Garchomp. I like pivoting into Garchomp and see what Garchomp does to us. And his HP stat is incredible as well. His defensive stats are not as great, but his HP stat is really making him that bulky, as Amoonguss usually doesn't die in one hit. And he can even live Icicle Spear from Weavile, from full HP, from a Choice Banded Weavile. If Weavile obviously doesn't get 5 hits. 4 hits might be too much, but he's definitely not dying on 3 hits from full. And also Amoonguss being able to switch into the most common Volt Switch user in the game, Rhythm Wash. And yeah, like mainly the fighting resist and the regenerator. You can run stuff like Rocky Helmet to make U-turners really annoyed. And his poison typing also gives us a toxic resist, so that our opponent cannot spam toxic on us. And yeah, having access to status moves like Spore, Toxic, making it really annoying. Sludge Bomb, making him really annoying as well. Obviously with Hidden Power, he can 1v1 certain steel types like Scizor. He has access to Foul Play. A lot of things in his kit that are possible. You can even run it with an Assault Vest if you are struggling against rain or special attackers. I think this Pokemon is really versatile. And if you are looking for a defensive Pokemon, then Amoonguss is probably one of the ones that comes to mind first. Next up, we have Blissey. Blissey, definitely a solid Pokemon, guys. Really reliable Pokemon. However, I'm going to put him into the B tier. Like I mentioned, still a good, reliable Pokemon. But Blissey does have a main weakness, and that's going to be Blissey's defense. Because, yeah, it's usually a choice between Blissey or Chansey. But in this meta game, guys, knockoff is something that is not run much. Which means you mostly want to have the bulk. Blissey does have access to certain offensive moves like Ice Beam, Flamethrower to be annoying. But yeah, this is not really an offensive threat. It's mostly used as a special wall, of course. However, as you guys see later, I'm gonna put Chansey above the Blissey just for the fact that of the knockoff, and some physical Pokemon are able to muscle through this Blissey, and Blissey is more weak to something like Pursuit than Chansey. But like I said, if you build Blissey correctly, it can shine as well, and then it can outperform Chansey as well, depending on the team, of course. But I'm gonna put Blissey in B tier just for the fact that Chansey is bulkier than Blissey. Next up, we have Breloom, and yeah, guys, I'm going to be putting Breloom in S tier. Just like the other two, very versatile Pokemon, top performer. I'm pretty sure the win rates of these guys are also pretty decent with a really high usage rate. But yeah, Breloom now having access to close combat makes it fit on so many teams. It has access to Zen Headbutt now, being able to hit poison types that way. It can even use Aerial Ace to hit other grass types with a Technician boost with his newly released hidden ability, Technician. Basically moves with 60 base power or lower get an extra 50% boost, which can make this Breloom really powerful. But yeah, him getting access to that close combat that makes it really difficult to deal with Breloom. For the fact that Breloom, mostly played on hyper offense, can fit on stall as well. Like, certain stall teams have one strong attacker on a team. Breloom can be one of them. Obviously, you can fit on balance too. You're putting a choice band on the guy, and even it can even use Toxic Orb, because with the close combat is not. If you use close combat, it's not affected by Technician, so it doesn't matter if you have Technician or Poison Heal for close combat. But his other moves like Mach Punch do like Technician and Bullet Seed as well. And yeah, it's really difficult to counter this Pokemon, because you used to bring Weezing to it, but now he can Swords Dance up and hit you with Zen Headbutt, for example. He can do the same to Among Us. He can still run Rock Tomb with Technician, which can hit flying types like Mandibuzz really hard. And with a Choice Band, it can usually net, like, Breloom gets a 2-hit KO on Skarmory if he's Life Orbed or Choice Banded with close combat. That's how insane Breloom can be. And obviously having access to that Spore as well, it's always gonna be annoying mind game facing a Breloom. So yeah, so many options for this Breloom. And this Pokemon, due to the Mach Punch Technician, can consistently perform well, because Mach Punch is gonna do well into offensive Pokemon, while his close combat or his Zen Headbutt can do really well into defensive teams. So if you are looking for a physical attacker, a physical fighting type, then Breloom could be a really good choice for you. Next up, we have Bronzong, and this is an interesting one because I've seen more people use Bronzong. It is mostly on stall though. It is mostly on stall. But in the beginning, I didn't really didn't have much of an opinion on Bronzong. That was decent, but not super good. But yeah, people have been experimenting with this guy. I've seen him on stall teams with Skill Swap. I've seen Calm Mind store power sets. And obviously having that Levitate makes him immune to stuff like Earthquake, removing his ground weakness. But he can also run Heat Proof, because it's always a guessing game when you're facing a Bronzong, because you might be afraid of clicking Earthquake against him because of Levitate, but he might be Heat Proof, and then you found it out too late. So what I'm gonna do for now is I'm gonna put it in B tier as well. Just it's not, I don't put it in A tier because he doesn't have reliable recovery. That's why you probably see it more on stall teams, because those stall teams do have stuff like Wish, Teleport to heal Bronzong back up, because he doesn't have reliable recovery on his own. But I think he can still be a reliable Pokemon, and some scary attackers like Mamoswine, he can basically come in too, and there aren't many Pokemon that can come in on Mamoswine if your name is not Run and Wash. So he's one of the few that can do it. And yeah, he has a lot of supportive moves as well. He has access to Stealth Rock, he can use Toxic, he can use Future Sight to set up another Pokemon. Obviously has access to Hidden Power. Really annoying. He can be used as for Trick Room. But yeah, like I said, you do need to build with this Pokemon. You can just not put it in any team. But yeah, overall, I think it's really can be a really reliable Pokemon. Next up, we have Chandelure. Chandelure. I'm putting it into C tier because Chandelure does have special strengths. Like, he has one of the highest special attacks in the game in PokeMMO. His unique Ghost Fire typing, also really interesting, because that can be an interesting offensive typing, and he has amazing coverage as well. Access to Energy Ball, Flamethrower, Power Rush, Shadow Ball. Gives you a lot of coverage. And him having access to Trick, but he can also be a Calm Mind set. He can use Substitute. And he can use even Pain Split if you want to run defensively. And it's one of the Pokemon that can deal really well into a Volcarona, which I'm gonna come into later. However, though, Chandelure is not something you can put on any team. His Stealth Rock weakness does mean he needs the right support, so you do kind of need to build around this Pokemon to really showcase his strengths. But if you can get him into the right circumstances, then this Pokemon can be a real powerhouse. But yeah, this guy does have a lot of counters. And if it's not running a choice scarf, he can get trapped by something like Weavile with Pursuit. If it is running a choice scarf, it's gonna lock himself into a move it might not like to, and then get Pursuit trapped by Tyranitar. But yeah, if you can set up this Pokemon correctly, then like I said, it can be a real powerhouse. Next up, we have Chansey, and like I mentioned about Blissey, I put Chansey above Blissey, just because Chansey can actually. I've seen Chansey live close combats from fighting types like Mienshao. Like, with the Eviolite, it's a real powerhouse, and like I said, in this game, knockoff isn't too common, just because it's the old knockoff, so it doesn't double in power. It has a lower base power as well. It only removes item and does a very little amount of damage. So it's rarely seen. You see it on a few defensive Pokemon. But yeah, due to the Eviolite, it's gonna allow him to stay in on stuff like Garchomp, which Blissey can get to it killed by, depending on the Garchomp set, of course. But Chansey can just stay in. He can even stay in. If it's neutral, he can stay in and throw off a Toxic, for example. Annoying, and makes it easier to teleport around to as well. Just because of the bulk, and even though Blissey has higher stats with the Eviolite, Chansey is actually bulkers defensively and special defensively as well. So that's why I put Chansey above it. The only thing that Blissey has over Chansey is that it can run an item like Leftovers, which means it's gonna take less damage from Stealth Rock due to Leftovers recovery, or it's not gonna take damage from stuff like Sandstorm, which is permanent damage on Chansey, unless Chansey uses a healing move, of course. But yeah, for overall bulk and consistency, I think I put Chansey over Blissey. And now the next Pokemon is Charizard. I think I used it in one of my recent videos, but honestly, guys, stay away from this Pokemon. Like with a fire typing, you're better off going with something like Volcarona. Yeah, or the Chandelure, for example. Other Pokemon you can use. And for flying types, for the flying typing, you have stuff like Crobat that I put above it, Togekiss, like Charizard. His stats are mediocre. Does have access to some powerful moves like Weather Ball, and he has his hidden ability. So on a Sun team, but like I said, it's gonna be a niche then if you need it for a specific reason. If it is for the solar power, then yeah, you can put it on a Sun team. But I'm pretty sure this Pokemon has a really low win rate, even though I'm performing with it. Synthesis C, his stall team performs as well. But like I said, it's a niche pick. You can just not put it on every team. And yeah, like I said, guys, if the Pokemon is in D tier and you are serious about this game, then it's generally better to stay away from these Pokemon. Next up, we have Cloyster, which I am going to put into D tier as well. The reason is because if Cloyster had access to the not nerfed King's Rock, then I will obviously put it higher. But since King's Rock doesn't really work on him anymore, his most used item is probably Focus Sash. And Cloyster is going to be really frail on the special side as well. So even from stuff like Scald is going to lose half or more of his HP. And you have a lot of fighting types running around as well. So even the physical attackers, which Cloyster does have a high physical defense, can just close combat it before he can use his setup. Gelder, and again with Mach Punch as well. Infernape with Mach Punch. You have Scissors with the Bullet Punch if Cloyster is weakened. He's weak to Stealth Rock. And yeah, it requires a specific team to be able to set up that Shell Smash. Because in a lot of cases, a lot of players won't let you do it for free. So yeah, I'm gonna put Cloyster into D tier. Can definitely be a scary one if he gets a Shell Smash, but with the addition of Suicune, for example, which we'll come back to later, but yeah, Spooky Water types, you have the Parathorns, which can hit him with the grass type attack. It's just a rough time for Cloyster, but yeah, it can definitely be a scary Pokemon if it is able to Shell Smash for free. Next up, we have Cofagrigus, and I am going to put Cofagrigus into the D tier. The reason for Cofagrigus is because his HP stat is really low. He has awesome defense, he has awesome special defense, but if you choose to go with a max HP max defense route, and he's going to be really weak on the special side, even though he has a really high special defense stat. Due to the HP, he's still going to take a lot of damage. Pain Split is his only form of reliable recovery unless you use Rest. He doesn't have something like Slack Off or Recover. So you can take advantage of this Pokemon if you're on the opposing side. Running Rocky Helmet on him means the recovery is even worse. However, as a fighting check, it can be really good, and his Mummy ability, removing the ability of the opponent if he decides to attack him with a contact move, can be really clutch in certain situations. Also, access to a lot of supportive moves like Will-O-Wisp, Toxic. I believe he even gets Spite, but he also gets Toxic Spikes, which can be interesting for certain teams. And obviously a Trick Room user as well. But yeah, he's going to need specific teams. You cannot just put this Cofagrigus into any team and perform well with him. But yeah, at times he can be really good though. Next up we have Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr is always one Pokemon I'm scared to face, no matter what team I'm playing, because switching into Conkeldurr is a headache. However, though, I'm going to put him into the A tier because killing the Conkeldurr is not really the issue, but switching into Conkeldurr can be rough at times. Probably the best counter to Conkeldurr is Weezing, because Weezing has the neutralizing gas ability, removing his guts or sheer force or whatever he's using. But others don't safely switch in. Like Gliscor, sure, he resists the fighting type attack, but he's going to drop to an Ice Punch. Amoonguss doesn't like switching into Ice Punch. Pelipper doesn't like switching into Thunder Punch. Jellicent doesn't like switching into Thunder Punch. Obviously we have the Cofagrigus though in C tier, which could reliably switch into Conkeldurr. But yeah, and then you're going to face a bulk up Conkeldurr. Like, Conkeldurr also really versatile. The only reason I'm not putting him into S tier is just because he's so slow and his special attack is not great. So something like Psychic, even though Conkeldurr has a really high HP stat, so some super effective moves like Psychic might not even knock him out, and then he's gonna get off a big attack in return. However, if you know the Conkeldurr set, then you could play around it, and it really depends on his moveset as well. Because if he's running a close combat set, then you know the Conkeldurr is going to be on a timer, because he's most likely not carrying Drain Punch. However, if he's carrying Drain Punch, he's going to be lacking that damage from the close combat, for example. And if you know that he doesn't have the coverage move for your specific mount, for example, if he doesn't have Ice Punch for your Amoonguss or Facade, then it's gonna be really nice. If he doesn't have Thunder Punch, really nice for the Jellicent, for example. So this Pokemon can counter hard, and if he's countered, then not gonna perform as well as something like a Breloom Because even if a Breloom gets countered, he can still perform really well. But that's why I'm putting him into A tier. But Conkeldurr has his damage class is on its own. Like switching into Conkeldurr, like most of you can probably relate, but it's not fun. However, Conkeldurr is killable though. It's gonna be Conkeldurr. Credant. I got really excited when his hidden ability got released. But here's the issue with Credant, guys. I'm gonna put him into C tier. Because I think he's too good to be a Nichemon. I also think he's probably too good to be UU. But the problem with Credant is if you want to run Adamant, you're gonna be slower than Run Wash. If you're gonna be Jolly, you're going to miss out on certain kills which you would have gotten if you were Adamant. And your most powerful move is Crab Hammer. And here's the difference. Conkeldurr's most powerful move is probably Close Combat. Breloom's most powerful move is Close Combat. They don't miss under the normal circumstances. Crab Hammer could miss and screw you over because Credant has a really low HP stat and is really frail, so if he takes damage, he's going to take a lot of damage. So if you miss something like Crab Hammer, which you need to, and then you get burned or whatever, it's going to be really annoying for Credant. If Credant had access to knockoff, like a powerful knockoff, I would put him way higher, but he has to make do with Crunch, which is still pretty good. But yeah, it doesn't beat knockoff. So I'm putting him into C tier. If he was a bit faster, it would be nice. But yeah, switching into this guy can be a headache as well if you don't have a Rotom Wash. He also has access to Close Combat himself. So if you are something like Ferrothorn or Empoleon, it's not always a free switch because he can click that Close Combat on you. But here's where that comes in, because if he runs a Choice Band, then he's gonna be locked into a move. If he decides to run Dragon Dance or Swords Dance, he can only use 3 moves. But one move is always going to be Crab Hammer. The other move is most likely going to be Crunch. Is he going to use Close Combat next to it? Then he doesn't have Aqua Jet. If you choose to run Aqua Jet, maybe he's lacking Crab Hammer. So it's really awkward to use him. And if you use a Swords Dance or Dragon Dance set and you don't have Close Combat, you're not gonna touch Ferrothorn, for example. However, I have seen this guy hit it. Like, I've seen this guy one-shotting Suicune in the rain with Crab Hammer after a Swords Dance. So yeah, can definitely be a scary mon, but however, I don't think he is really consistent, but definitely scary when facing. Next up, we have Crobat. Crobat is by technicality, I think, still UU. But honestly, Crobat is one of the best stall breakers in the game, and I am going to be putting him into the B tier. Like his speed allows him to outspeed pretty much everything, which is really nice. And his poison typing makes it so he cannot use Toxic on him, which makes him really good for stall. He has access to Taunt, which can shut down defensive Pokemon. He has access to Super Fang to even hit Pokemon that he doesn't hit really well, something like Metagross, Tormentator, Skarmory, and make them lose half their HP. But he also has access to Brave Bird to hit stuff like Volcarona. But his special moveset is also really interesting. He has access to Nasty Plot. He can use Giga Drain, Air Slash, Sludge Bomb. He can even use Heat Wave. Like, can be really interesting, man. However, you cannot just put it on any team. He does need to fit the team. So you need to adjust his moveset correctly. And Crobat can get countered really hard by stuff like Magnezone. Steel types with leftovers can be annoying. And yeah, Crobat doesn't like switching into Scald either against those bulky water types. Because if Crobat is burned a lot, his longevity is really low. But yeah, having that speed control on your team, really nice. And his typing as well, like fighting types are one of the most common typings, offensive typings in the game. Having that Crobat, which pretty much gonna outspeed everyone, and being able to hit them with a strong Brave Bird can be really nice. But yeah, that's Crobat, guys. Next up, we have Darmanitan, and I'm going to be putting Darmanitan into the B tier as well. Just because probably probably the best physical fighting fire type in the game. If you put it on Sun with the Choice Scarf, it's gonna pretty much outspeed the whole meta game. He doesn't have access to priority moves. That's his only downside. Otherwise, I would put him higher. But yeah, Flare Blitz with Sheer Force. Some people even run Choice Band, which can be overkill. And you'd be killing a Pokemon 2 times or 3 times in a one hit. But yeah, Darmanitan can be really scary to face if you don't have a fire type resist on the team. But he also has access to stuff like Rock Slide, Earthquake, Stone Edge, whatever. Has access to Superpower as well. And yeah, him having access to that U-turn fits really well into his kit as well. He has access to Belly Drum, but I don't think Belly Drum is good on him. And Darmanitan is one of the highest HP stats in the game as well. He can be bulky at times. The reason I'm not putting him higher, again, he doesn't have priority moves. And he, after to be effective, he needs to have a Choice Scarf. Because there are a bunch of things that outspeed his speed tier. And some things that can easily kill him, like Infernape, Mienshao, Garchomp if he's not running a Choice Scarf. And yeah, his move was usually the same as well. I've ran Fire Punch a few times, which can still be really powerful. Because I didn't want to take the recoil, because in some cases Fire Punch is also now, because he has so much damage in his fire type moves as well. But yeah, he is going to be weak to priority moves. Even Bullet Punch can do a lot after a Swords Dance, for example. He has a weakness to Stealth Rock, so you cannot just put him on any team. He does need correct support, but he does need to fit the team. Next up, we have Ditto. I'm going to be putting Ditto in C tier. I don't think he is completely useless. However, I don't think Ditto is great. Just because you cannot put Ditto in every team. Because Ditto is going to take away a role you might need. Because he cannot be a reliable Stealth Rock setter. That's on the team. He cannot be a reliable hazard remover. What Ditto is mostly used for is to copy an opposing Pokemon who just used a setup move and reverse sweep. But when you're facing a good player, he's not gonna allow you to do that for free. And if they don't do that, then Ditto is not very effective, because Ditto's mostly using a Choice Scarf, meaning that he's basically not gonna have an item that outspeeding and stuff. And a lot of setup sweepers don't mind the Ditto. Something like Gliscor doesn't mind setting up when the opponent has a Ditto, because Ditto doesn't get the poison unless he's poisoned as well. Versus a Conkeldurr, Ditto doesn't get the Flame Orb boost. Versus a Reuniclus is still moving he's still increasing his defensive stats as well with Calm Mind, his special defensive stat with Calm Mind. And Reuniclus can swap his moves while Ditto can't. So you really need to put him on a specific team. And usually you build around his Ditto as well. Mostly fits on stall. I've seen it on offense as well. But yeah, I don't think it's a really good mod. However, he can. I actually got I got like top 15 with a 90% win rate or something using a Ditto team. Some of you might still remember, but yeah, I don't think it's a good mod. I don't think it's a great mod. He can be decent, but not consistent. Next up we have Duck Trio, and I'm going to be putting Duck Trio, guys. Here's the thing, I'm putting him into C tier, but you guys know my opinion on this man. I think Arena Trap needs to be banned. It's not healthy for the metagame, and you will only see Duck Trio perform well on stall. On other teams, it's just not going to be consistent. He's way too frail, and he's only there to trap something, but he can easily kill Duck Trio with priority move. Scissor can pursue trap him then. Weave's faster, of course. Like the most scary sets on. The most scary thing about the Duck Trio is it typically runs a Focus Sash. So if you're using a choice banded Weave, for example, because Duck Trio is often paired up with a Espion, right? And you try to Pursuit trap the Espion, you kill Espion. Now Duck Trio comes in, you cannot switch, so you have to use Pursuit against the Duck Trio. His Focus Sash activates and he kills you with Reversal. You basically have to be afraid of killing a Pokemon on a stall team, because Duck Trio is gonna come in and trap you, and now you cannot use that Pokemon to break the teams. Because normally Tyranitar would be really good into stall. Now there's Duck Trio. Excadrill can be decent against stall because of his Mold Breaker ability. There's Duck Trio. I don't think it's healthy because it doesn't. Basically, it doesn't take a lot of skill to use Duck Trio against something like Tyranitar, for example. He traps full Corona as well. Looks like nothing you can do. Basically, it doesn't allow much counterplay aside from deciding not to kill something. But yeah, on its own, you cannot put it on every team. Like, you need to put it on a specific team to perform well with it. But I'm pretty sure if you look back into his win rate, it's going to be a high win rate because it's only going to be played on stall. You look at the Pokemon next to it, they're probably going to be stall mods like Defensible Corona, Togekiss, those kind of mods, those kind of stall teams. Next up we have Empoleon. Empoleon, here's the thing, guys. Because I'm going to be putting him into B tier. Just because of what Empoleon provides. But I feel like his usage has dropped a lot since Gastrodon got Stealth. Because before that, Empoleon was the go-to because he has access to Roost, does well into Rain, has access to Stealth Rock, can use Defog as well. Obviously has access to Scald and Ice Beam. He can use Roar. So a bunch of options on this mon. However, as the bulky water type, more people lean more towards Gastrodon these days. And Empoleon doesn't have that fire resist anymore due to his steel type, even though having the steel type is amazing for him. He doesn't have the fire resist, so something like Volcarona or Chandelure can break through Empoleon as well. Empoleon also has to deal with the Rotom, like taking Volt Switches every time. Gastrodon doesn't have to do it. That's why, but I still think it provides a lot. However, Gastrodon is, if you have to choose between Gastrodon and Empoleon, you typically see people use Gastrodon instead. And obviously his fighting weakness as well plays a huge part, because you want to check stuff like Hydreigon, but Hydreigon can run Focus Blast too and blow you back if you Nasty Plots up. Can be scary, but this can still be a really solid mon. But yeah, it does need to fit the team, so you have to adjust the sets basically. Next up we have Entei. Entei, from this moment that I'm creating the video, it has not been released yet, but the other two have, and it's already explained that Entei will be in the game as well eventually. And there is no data on him, so I just go off what I think. And honestly, guys, I am I am going to be putting him into the B tier for now. Back in Black and White, I believe he was lower. But in this game, Entei actually gets access to Flare Blitz and Extreme Speed. And I believe he gets Stone Edge and... Well, he doesn't get Bulldoze because I don't know if Bulldoze is Gen 5. But he does have access to Stone Edge for other fire types. And one of his signature moves, Sacred Fire. And here's the thing about Sacred Fire, guys. Unlike Darmanitan, which is in the same tier, Sacred Fire doesn't... Sacred Fire is a physical move, but you don't take recoil damage from stuff like Rocky Helmet or Rough Skin from a Garchomp. If someone has Static, it doesn't work. If someone has Poison Point, it doesn't... you won't be affected. So it's a non-contact move. It's 100% accuracy, I believe. I might have to... don't quote me on that though. I cannot look it up right now, but it has a really high chance to burn, like a 50% chance to burn your target, which can come clutch in a lot of situations as well. But him having access to Extreme Speed, something that Darmanitan is lacking, it's really nice. You have Arcanine, which is similar. Arcanine, you might argue that Arcanine would be better. But I believe Entei, if I'm correct, I'm gonna look this up. Entei should have a higher speed stat than Arcanine. Gonna look it up real quick. I just have to look at Entei's speed stat. Entei, yeah, it's 100 base speed, so he has a higher speed stat, meaning that he doesn't have to click Extreme Speed against certain targets like a Hydreigon, for example. Even though he wouldn't be hitting Hydreigon really well, but he's faster than him. But yeah, him having access to that Sacred Fire to get 50% burn chance. I can actually look it up right now. A Sacred Fire has a 95 accuracy, but it has 100 base power, which is similar to Earthquake, and a 50% chance to burn your target. And like access to Extreme Speed, but his special attacks are pretty decent as well. He gets access to I believe Calm Mind if you want to use him as a special sweeper. I believe he even gets access to Eruption, becoming a Typhlosion. Yeah, I think especially if you are running it with a Choice Band, really powerful. And spamming Sacred Fire without very little drawback, aside from missing, of course. But if a Garchomp comes in on you, yeah, he's gonna resist the attack, but you have a chance to burn and you don't take rough skin damage, which is something Arcanine and Darmanitan will have trouble with if they are running those sets, because if you run into a Rocky Helmet Garchomp, you basically are going to kill yourself from clicking a fire move on them, while you can just push for a burn with Entei. I think Entei can definitely be a decent one. It's not going to be as good as Suicune. Maybe a bit worse than Raikou. But I think there's definitely a place for him. And back in Black and White, he wasn't used that well because you had Permanent Rain. Next up, we have Espeon. Getting a bit of a cold, guys. I'm sorry. Hopefully, felt like I just got that, but hopefully it isn't too disturbing. But yeah, Espeon, guys. Gonna be putting Espeon into the B tier as well. The reason I'm not putting him next to Duxtro, even though I think Espeon only works on specific situations, is because Espeon works really well on stall with a Wish Protect that with Baton Pass, but he can also be used as a screen setter on offense. If you use an offensive Espeon, it usually doesn't do as well. However, Calm Mind sets can sometimes be scary because you cannot status Espeon, so you cannot use Toxic to stop him. You really have to use damage to stop Espion. So Calmite could be scary, but yeah, you have stuff like Weavile, which will speed it. You have Tyranitar in the tier, so even if the Espion is running hidden power fighting, it doesn't really matter that much. Tyranitar is usually able to live it and yeah, blow him back with a crunch or something. But yeah, I don't think Espion will fit on every team. You do like Espion needs to fit the team as well. You need to build Espion accordingly to what your team needs. That's why I'm putting him into the B tier. We have Excadrill. Excadrill, I was really excited when he got Mold Breaker. I'm a bit debating whether he's going to be B tier or A tier. For now, I'm gonna put him into the A tier, just because he has that Mold Breaker. With that Mold Breaker, he can actually he becomes a Pokemon that can do super effective damage against one of the most common used Volt Switches in the game, Rotom Wash. Because it's gonna ignore Levitate, but it is also if you're using a Swords Dance set, it's gonna ignore Dragonite's multi-skill, and you can basically kill him with Rock Slide after you Swords Dance up, for example. But it can also get up Stealth Rock against Espion. He has access to Stealth Rock, but he also has access to Rapid Spin, and Rapid Spin gives him a speed boost, which basically could give you a free Choice Scarf in certain situations. But yeah, he does have that fighting weakness, so stuff like Mach Punch will mostly kill him from stuff like Breloom and Conkeldurr. Suicune is now in the game as well. Gliscor is running around too. Like, there are a bunch of counters. So he will not always perform, because if your opponent does have an Impish Gliscor, he's not gonna do anything. For example, like, he gets completely walled. Doesn't matter what set you are running. Without luck, you're not breaking past it. And yeah, his speed tier is decent, but not great. Not great. Still gonna be slower than stuff like Hydreigon, which you can Focus Blast or Flamethrower him. And you'll mostly see Excadrill on Hyper Offense team. This usually has a Stealth Rock lead, or you see him on Sand teams with Sand Rush, which is still something, or sometimes on Rain teams as a Rapid Spinner and Stealth Rocker of the team. But yeah, you don't see it everywhere. That's why I'm debating whether he's A tier or B tier. But yeah, he's one of the ground types that has access to Swords Dance, and is pretty fast to say, but still a bunch of things that are faster than him. But yeah, if he does, like, Sources can be scary, but he has a lot of utility as well. Like, he can fit a lot of teams. But you do need to use him for the thing you need him for. So if you need him as a Rapid Spinner, you can use him as a Rapid Spinner. If you need him as a Stealth Rocker, you can use him as a Stealth Rocker. Like, for specific reasons, you can put him on a team, but he can fit in a lot of teams, I think, because his ground type gives him immunity to electric type attacks. Like, he can completely wall Magnezone, for example, because he takes special attacks pretty well, I gotta say. So even hit a Power Fire won't really kill us. Need that check. If Raikou doesn't have Aura Sphere, it'd be really nice. Electric Stopper, obviously you don't really want to be taking a Hydro Pump from Rotom Wash. But overall, decent mon, I think. Just leave it in the A tier for now. Next up, we have Ferrothorn. And here's the thing with Ferrothorn. I think it's a really annoying Pokemon. Really good mon. However, I'm going to be putting him into the B tier. Because it's awkward building with him. Because if you're using him as a physical wall, one of the most common offensive typings are fighting types, which are going to be super effective on Ferrothorn. Doesn't really appreciate that. And his mostly used nature is probably relaxed. Doesn't really need that special defense. It can be nice versus rain teams, I guess. But with his defensive stat, he is often able to live that close combat though, or live that drain punch, get up hazards. Can be annoying with lead sheet, and has access to stealth rock and spikes, of course. Has access to knockoff as well. But if your opponent has an Amoonguss, then Ferritor never really gets to heal from lead sheet, because Amoonguss can come in, use hidden power fire as well. If you want to run Gyro Ball on the guy with Protect, then you don't have Power Whip. If you want to run Power Whip, then you might be missing Gyro Ball, because if you don't know Gyro Ball, you might gonna struggle against a stall breaker like Crobat. You might not be able to punish Dragonite. But yeah, Dragonite often uses Fire Punch as well, so after you Dragon Dances up, Fire Punch will likely kill you as well at a certain point. It's just awkward because basically whenever you use Ferrothorn, you are kind of forced to build a defensive team. Yeah, I've seen some offensive Ferrothorns on offense teams. It's really niche. But if you're using a Ferrothorn, you most likely need other defensive mounts to cover his weaknesses, which is going to be a balanced or a stall team, most likely, and more towards stall using Ferrothorn if you want to cover a lot of weaknesses. That's why I'm not putting him into the A tier, because I don't think you need a specific way of building your team when using Ferrothorn, while other walls will generally do better for you against the majority of the meta if you are choosing to go for balanced or bulky offense. That's why I'm putting him into the B tier. But yeah, definitely an annoying Pokemon to face and really good mon till this day still. Next up we have Gallade, and Gallade, when he got released, when his sharpness ability got released, he was definitely S tier. However, I put him into the A tier now because that nerf was pretty significant to his sharpness ability. Instead of 1.5, it's 1.3. So now, with a life warp, he's gonna be missing out on the 2-hit KO on something like Mandibuzz. He might miss out. He won't be able to 2-hit KO Skarmory when running a Choice Scarf anymore. So, for example, you cannot run Choice Scarf for free on this Gallade anymore, because a lot of Pokemon will be able to wall you now. That's why I put him into the A tier. However, before that, he was definitely a S tier. If you are able to 2-hit KO Skarmory with a Choice Scarf after rocks damage, then that's insane. So yeah, it's gonna be the Gallade. Gallade access to a lot of moves, mainly Sacred Sword and Psycho Cut are the two ones because of the sharpness boost. But he also has access to Night Slash to hit Psychic and Ghost types. You can use Leaf Blade if you want to hit Suicune and Rotom Wash, for example. You can run Ice Punch if you want to hit ground types like Gliscor. So definitely a lot of options. He has access to Swords Dance. You can use Agility. You can use Substitute. And do a lot of sets. He can even use Bulk Up. A bunch of options with Gallade. Definitely a good mon, but yeah, he did take a hit in his power by that nerf on his ability. Why I'm putting him into the A tier. He's missing out on a lot of kills he would have gotten before. Garchomp. This is, I think, Garchomp in PokeMMO is the definition of a balanced Pokemon. If this guy had Swords Dance or an Outrage, then like the strong Outrage, this game is 90 base power, then I would put him higher. But it's definitely the definition of a balanced mon, because you can counter this mon. However, really versatile mon, can pretty much fit any team. Solid speed stat, of course. Outspeeding Hydreigon. You kind of want speeding Charizard. But really bulky as well. Usually doesn't die to a hidden power rise from a Raikou, for example. Leftover Raikou from Phil. even if you're running an offensive set, which is really incredible for this Garchomp. Access to Stealth Rock and Spikes. Access to Toxic, but he can also run a Choice Band set with Earthquake, Dragon Claw, Dual Chop if you run into a Dragonite, for example. But he also can use Draco Meteor with Flamethrower or Fire Blast. And obviously Earthquake always solid there. And yeah, like I said, the definition of a balanced mon, but yeah, you can completely counter this mon. For example, if it doesn't have Toxic and Stone Edge or Rock type move, then Mandibuzz does really well into it, for example. Spadef Gliscor does really well into it if it's not running Home Claws, Dragon Rush, for example. But generally, I don't think he's good enough in this state to be S tier. But yeah, you'll probably see it in his win rate as well. Really high usage rate and a positive win rate says a lot. I think he has the highest usage rate in the game. And for good reason, because I honestly think this is the definition of a balanced Pokemon in PokeMMO. Next up we have Gastrodon, guys. And Gastrodon is an interesting one. Because I was talking about the Empoleon. Because before Gastrodon got access to Stealth Rock and Spikes, I put Empoleon above it. But now, yeah, Gastrodon having access to Stealth Rock and Spikes makes him really solid, because that was the thing that he was lacking. Because his Storm Drain ability does really well into rain teams. Sorry guys, I had to pause the video for a second there. I'm really noticing that I'm getting a cold, but yeah, let's continue. I was talking about the Gastrodon. Gastrodon now having access to Stealth Rock and Spikes, like I said. His Sticky Hold ability is also pretty decent, because with the Sticky Hold, an opposing Rotom Wash cannot use Trick. Because if you're facing a Trick Rotom and you have Sticky Hold Gastrodon, then it's always going to be a free switch. And then the Rotom is basically going to be useless. However, the Storm Drain is nice because he cannot get Scald Burned. Does really well into rain. The reason I'm not putting him into S tier is because he doesn't completely counter rain. Because if you're facing a Golduck, for example, a Golduck can use Grass Knot. And Gastrodon can still take a lot from Draco Meteor too. Since he's mostly relying on his huge HP stat. But his special defense is pretty decent too. And stuff like Hydreigon can overpower him with nasty plots. So I'm using him as a physical defensive Pokemon. But if you're running into a Choice Band, Garchomp, or Mamoswine, for example, then Gastrodon, I still get 2-hit KO by Earthquake. That's why I'm not putting him into S tier. But overall, really solid. Stealth Rock are immune to Volt Switch while being a water type. And yeah, still having access to that Toxic. Access to both hazards if you need either Toxic or if you either need Spikes or Stealth Rock on the team. And yeah, his Ice Beam makes him a really good Dragon answer as well. Next up we have Gengar. Gengar, guys. When I started PokeMMO, this Pokemon was really good with Substitute Nasty Plot. However, I felt like since the addition of the Assault Vest or the Assault Gear in PokeMMO, Gengar just has fallen down so much. And also with the addition of Superior, which is faster, which has higher sweeping potential than Gengar, he's just fallen off so much. I might even consider Chandelure being better than Gengar, but I don't think Gengar is gonna be D tier. Gengar is going to be C tier, for my opinion. Can still fit because like he's still faster than Mienshao. He's still faster than Garchomp. With a nasty plot up, he can still be really scary. With the poison type, he cannot get Toxic. So in certain circumstances, I still think the substitute set is probably the best versatile one. On hyper offense, you're probably gonna see Focus Sash, Gengar. With Nasty Plot, some might have Taunt, depending on how they want to run their Gengar. But yeah, I don't think you can fit this on any team and do well. Like, you need to build around this Gengar to make it work. But yeah, in certain circumstances, he can be really scary though. Gliscor. Okay, this guy's... Most of you could probably guess it, but yeah, I'm putting Gliscor into S tier. Gliscor. This Pokemon, whenever someone has it, your question is always going to be, how am I going to kill this Gliscor? Because with him getting his hidden ability, the Poison Heal, and Ice types, offensive Ice types not being that present in the game, this Pokemon can be a real scary mon. And you can use him with an Impish nature if you want to use him as a defensive Pokemon. But you can also run him with a careful nature as well, like a specially defensive nature. And if you run him especially defensive with Toxic, it can 1v1 Rotom Wash, because with the Poison Heal, he can... Because Gliscor is faster, so he can Roost after the Hydro Pump and basically stall Rotom out of all his Hydro Pumps while wearing him down. But it can also run a Jolly nature, and because he is actually really fast, he's faster than... he's just as fast as Darmanitan, for example, with a Jolly nature. Like, Gliscor can be really fast as well. He can be, and that means he can be faster than offensive threats like Gyarados, Dragonite, basically allowing you to use Swords Dance as a set as well. You can run Swords Dance on a specially defensive set too. But killing this mon, he offers so much. You can use him as a sweeper, you can use him as a stall Pokemon, you can use him as Defogger, as a Stealth Rocker, you can even use him as a Stall Breaker because he has access to Taunt as well. And he has access to Spikes too. Like, this Pokemon does so much, really difficult to kill. Always going to be on everyone's mind whenever playing against it. How are we going to kill Gliscor? And whenever you kill Gliscor, it's such a relief. But just like the other ones, when building a team, you should always keep facing Gliscor in mind as well. I mean, he just provides so much. You can put him on stall, you can run him on hyper offense. Like I said, he has a really high speed stat, access to both hazards, has access to U-turn as well for playmaking. Like, this is also one of the best Pokemon in the game. And now we have Gyarados. And I'm putting Gyarados, guys. I'm putting him into the C tier, into the B tier. I don't think he's quite A tier. You cannot put Gyarados in any team. Gyarados has to fit your team to do well. So, because here's the thing, Gyarados doesn't really Gyarados has an amazing attack stat, pretty okay speed stat. It's faster than Togekiss and Mamoswine, for example. However, he doesn't have access to a stab move with a high base power. His strongest water type attack, physical water type attack, is I believe Aqua Tail. But yeah, Waterfall is 100% accuracy. However, he does have really good coverage in Ice Fang and Power Whip. You can run Earthquake on him too. You can run Bounce. Can be really scary, man. I think Intimidate is more consistent than Moxie. In games Gyarados doesn't sweep, he can still make use of his Intimidate ability. However, if Gyarados is able to set up the Dragon Dance, then in a late game situation, then he has a lot of sweeping power, and then it becomes a really scary mon. But you need to build around this, you need to set it up. And yeah, can be a solid sweeper. But yeah, like I said, he also has a weakness to Stealth Rock, so you do need some good team building around him. Next up we have Hexorus, and I'm putting him into the D tier. I'm sorry guys, I love the mon, cool design and everything, and sorry guys, I felt like I needed to pause it for a second as well because of my cold. But yeah, Hexorus, here's the issue, guys. Really high attack stat, okay speed stat, but it's slower than Hydreigon. Does have access to the Mold Breaker ability, but here's the thing. He's a pure Dragon typing, right? So if you want to use him as a Dragon Dance sweeper, then Dragonite is going to be your guy. If you want to use him as a wall breaker, then Dragonite, like with a choice band or something, then Dragonite is your guy, or Garchomp is your guy. And yeah, he has access to close combat, but you might as well use a fighting type if you want to use him for that. Exorus can be really scary though with a Swords Dance, because I think he's one of the highest attack stats in the game. But him not having access to a priority move, which Dragonite has, he's pretty bulky still. He's with no priority move, and he's not as fast as Garchomp. If he was faster, then maybe he could have had more use. But yeah, Hydreigon can come in and revenge kill him if he's not Dragon Danced up, or if he's not Choice Scarfed. And if you want to use a Choice Scarfed Dragon, you might as well use Garchomp, because Garchomp is bulkier, it's faster, and has access to a Stab Earthquake, which Hexorus doesn't have. Hexorus does have Earthquake, but it's not Stab, because he's a pure Dragon typing. So he's gonna lose a lot of power on his other moves. They're just better options, but obviously you can make it work. Like, this is why we call these niche, because yeah, they can work, but you really gotta know what you're doing with them. Okay, next up we have Hippowdon. Man, I really like to use as well. However, guys, in the current meta, it's just not as great. When I started PokeMMO, he was in a really good spot. One of the monsters that has access to Stealth Rock, his Sandstream ability, removing the rain from opposing rain teams. He was one of the Conkeldurr counters. However, if a lot of Conkeldurrs these days do run Bulk Up as well, which means Hippowdon is not gonna do well into that. And Hippowdon has the Toxic weakness, like the Poison weakness, which Gliscor doesn't have due to his ability. Hippowdon does have reliable recovery into Slack Off though. Like, he can definitely be a good choice, but if you are looking, here's the thing: Hippowdon can still be good, but I don't think he's A tier. I think Hippowdon is probably B tier, or is gonna be C tier. I'm gonna put him into the C tier though, because I don't see much play on Hippo. I don't even play him that much, and I really like the mod. Maybe if we're gonna see some more Raikus running around, then maybe we're gonna see more Hippos. But yeah, Hippowdon, just the problem with Hippo is Rotom Wash complete. Rotom Wash is the most used defocker in the game. Can always come in, and if Hippowdon chooses to go for Toxic, he doesn't have Whirlwind, which can be annoying, because if he's Toxic, then he cannot. Then Scizor becomes, Hippowdon becomes free setup fodder for Scizor, for example. And then Conkeldurr, Bulk Up Conkeldurr becomes even more scary because you cannot roar him out. But yeah, or if you purely need him for a Stealth Rocker and you don't want to have that quadruple Ice type weakness that Gliscor has, because Hippowdon can actually come in on the Ice Punch and live too. Hippowdon does really well into countering Tyranitar too, because Stone Edge is resisted, and Crunch means that if Tyranitar doesn't get a defense drop, then you can easily slack off, and yeah, maybe you use Rocky Helmet on him, and Tyranitar's gonna take damage himself. Really good into Excadrill as well. But yeah, a lot of Garchomps do run Draco Meteor, which sucks, or they run Toxic, which would suck for Hippowdon as well. And that's just the main issue with Hippo. Him being so weak to the toxic. Because in a lot of cases, it's just so free to use it on him. And he's a stealth rocker, so if you want to set up rocks, you're gonna pay the price by getting poisoned. Maybe you have to stand on a scald burn, whatever. And yeah, I put Hippowdon into C tier for now. We just have to see how it goes. But I think life score is superior over Hippo. Hydreigon. This is one of the mons you have to keep in mind when team building as well. And Hydreigon is a really good Pokemon. I'm putting him into A tier though, just because he does have that fighting weakness. He does have that fighting weakness in Mach Punch. And obviously his speed tier means that a lot of Pokemon are faster than him. Garchomp, Mienshao, Infernape, Starmie, those kind of monsters, they're all faster than him. And can do a lot of damage. But yeah, switching into Hydreigon is also really annoying because Hydreigon has access to Nasty Plot. Thank God it doesn't have Draco Meteor in this game. But Dragon Pill is still really annoying. And yeah, he has access to moves like Substitute, which can be annoying to deal with. He has access to Taunt, so if you're running a Chansey, stop Hydreigon. He can taunt you to stop you from healing or to stop you from clicking toxic. Like you need specific answers to this mon. I don't think killing Hydreigon is necessarily the problem, because he does have that fighting weakness, which is the most common offensive typing in the game. Obviously he does an ice weakness as well, ice sharp priority. Bullet punch being natural. So Hydreigon is really bulky though. And yeah, just because it is okay. It is okay for a lot of teams to check Hydreigon, but yeah, switching into it can be really annoying if you don't have a dedicated answer to it, which you definitely need. Think about Hydreigon, how you're dealing with it. But yeah, Hydreigon into the A tier. Next up we have Infernape. I love this mon, but it's hard to say. He's definitely not A tier. I'm debating whether he's B tier or C tier. I am going to put him into the B tier for now, just because he's faster than Garchomp, which is good. Faster than Mienshao as well. He has a stab close combat, and he can run. You can run him with Choice Bandit. You can run him especially offensive. You can run him mixed. A mix is definitely one of the scary ones. You can even run his hidden ability Iron Fist with Drain Punch and Sword Stance, which can be annoying. The reason I'm not putting him into A tier is because his offensive stats are not that high. He doesn't hit Gallade numbers, especially with the ability. Gallade has more power. If you want to run a special offensive fire type, probably better off running Volcarona. But his presence there is definitely a scary one, because he has a lot of coverage. But he does get countered by most bulky water types. Things like Jellicent, Suicune, kind of mons. Manibus does really well into him too. But yeah, amazing speed tier, but he just lacks in the damage department compared to the other ones. He doesn't do as much damage as Breloom. He doesn't do as much damage like Breloom close combat. He doesn't do as much damage as Sacred Sword, Gallade. Doesn't do as much damage as Drain Punch, Conkeldurr with Flame Orb. Like, he lacks that damage. If he runs a Choice Scarf, he does outspeed these guys in terms of speed control, but he's gonna lose a lot of damage if he runs a Choice Band. That's probably, it's either, the sets are either Choice Band or mixed. Those are the most viable ones. But yeah, just his damage overall. Like he needs an item, and if he runs a life orb, he's gonna be on a timer. He cannot run Choice Scarf as efficiently as Gallade. Where Choice Band can be pretty decent, but even with a Choice Band, he's gonna miss out on certain kills, which Gallade with a life orb would get, or Galar would get. Why I'm putting him into that. Next up we have Jellicent, guys. And Jellicent, definitely a good mod. However, I'm gonna be putting him into the B tier as well, as might be A tier, but yeah, with the addition of Breloom, I do put him into the B tier. It's like I said, this is all opinion based, but Jellicent, guys, like the good things about Jellicent is he does have that ghost typing, which is an immunity to the most common offensive typing in the game, the fighting type, which is really nice. He has access to supportive moves like Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, Toxic. He has Cursed Body, which can come in clutch in a lot of scenarios. He even has a Water Absorb, which can be cool versus rain teams or versus other water types like Suicune. There are definitely some options, but the problem with Jellicent is that he's mostly used as a physical defensive wall. You rarely see him as a special defensive wall, even though his special defense is higher. This is because of his ghost typing. But yeah, since his defensive stat isn't that high, he can get 2-hit KO'd by Choice Banded Mamoswine, Life Orb Mamoswine with Earthquake, for example. Obviously, Breloom is there as well, but a Choice Banded Dragon Claw from a Dragonite can be scary too. A lot of Gallades to run Night Slash or Leaf Blade. So, like Jellicent it is not unlikely that Jellicent gets 2-hit KO'd from physical attacks, even though running defense, because his defense is not that great. But yeah, his ghost typing more and makes up for it. Just having that immunity is so great. Like I'm really on the fence here because I can definitely see him in the A tier too. But using, because Jellicent can also be run on offensive teams, since he does that, because he can be used as a spin blocker, can be run on defensive teams as well, and balanced as well. Makes him really versatile. But yeah, he doesn't offer something like Stealth Rocks, which you might want from your wall, like Gastrodon. I'll put him into B tier. We might review this in a bit. Next up, we have Jolteon, and I'm gonna put him straight into the D tier. Because on paper, you would think, right? One of the fastest Pokemon in the game. Decent special attack, decent special defense, but his HP stat is low. His defense stat is low, and his move pool, he does have access to Calm Mind, which is actually was a huge buff for him. Yeah, the issue with Jolteon is Tyranitar is one of the most common pursuit trappers. Really common Pokemon to face as well. So if you ever decide to click Thunderbolt or Hidden Power Rise, Shadow Ball, whatever, and you get trapped by Tar, you just dead. Always have to Volt Switch. And his special attack is decent though. They cannot really run Thunder. You're gonna be Volt Switching around with this, but it's really his defense holding him back. Because even though stuff like Mach Punch is neutral, he's going to take a lot of damage from it. He's even going to take a lot of damage from Bullet Punch. If you run it with a Choice Specs, it's gonna be on a timer, of course. The Volt Absorb is nice, but yeah, for more reliable Volt switches, you have Rotom, for example, which doesn't mind about the pursuit. It is mainly the pursuit, because his special attack is good. It's pretty decent, but it's not super extremely great unless you run a modest nature. But then you're gonna be missing out on a lot of speed, and then you're gonna be slower than Starmie, I believe. If you run a modest nature. But yeah, with a timid nature, Jolton is not really going to be one-shotting things with neutral damage, and often will be forced to fold switch out. And yeah, just missing out on kills. That's mainly it, and him being weak to priority moves. If he was a bit more bulkier like Raikou, then this Pokemon would have been awesome, because he does outspeed Duck Trail, for example. But yeah, in general, just not that great. Whenever I see a Jolton, I'm also not really worried, because gets completely hardwalled by pretty much any special defensive wall. Like, Gastrodon being more used, Blissey, Chansey being pretty much on any stall team. Him not being able to break through ground types that easily. Just yeah, I don't think Jolteon is that great. Yeah, next up we have Kabutops. Now I'm gonna put Kabutops. The thing is, whenever I'm facing rain, Kabutops, I find Kabutops more scary than Kingdra. It's because Kingdra is mostly choice specs, and you pretty much know you're either going to take a water attack if you don't have a switch, or he's gonna drop a Draco or Dragon Pulse on you. Occasionally they're gonna Hurricane in this game. But Kabutops, if like the most scary ones for me is his Swords Dance set. But yeah, let's say you have a flying type in against a Kabutops, and you decide to switch out, if he clicks Swords Dance, he can sweep your team under the rain. You don't have a priority move that kills him like Mach Punch. If you decide to stay in, anticipating the Swords Dance, and he clicks Stone Edge, then you'll most likely drop, because it's stab under base power with a Life Orb probably, or maybe Bandit. You just drop. But if he Swords Dance, because his Waterfall is basically going to, after a Swords Dance, basically going to kill anything that doesn't resist the move. And his Stone Edge coverage really nice, and he has access to Superpower. And those three moves gives a lot of coverage, because Superpower is basically clicked for super effective damage, and otherwise they click Waterfall, and a Rotom Wash, for example, can die to Stone Edge, 2+2 Stone Edge, for example. There's a Suicune, but yeah, Kabutops will only fit on Rain. That's why I'm not putting him into the A tier or into the S tier. I am going to put Kabutops into the B tier as well. And yeah, if we're talking about Rain, we might as well be talking about Kingdra. Gonna put him into the B tier as well. He needs to be played on Rain, but will always be solid on Rain. Occasionally, because I did it as well, you can run it outside of Rain, because it has a cool ability Sniper as well. With access to Focus Energy. Basically, Sniper, whenever you do critical hit damage, you get a boost in damage. And with Focus Energy and a Scope Lens, you get 100% crit ratio, which can be fun, really hilarious when using Draco Meteor or something. But that's niche. But on Rain, those two are always solid to have on Rain. Whenever I face a Rain team that doesn't have Kabutops, for example, I feel a bit relieved. They don't have a Kingdra, I sometimes feel relieved as well. But I'm mainly afraid of Kabutops, because that thing can really sweep your team. If it's Swords Dance, for example. Next up we have Lucario. This is every child's favorite Pokemon, Lucario. And here's the thing as well. I would put it in A tier, but it could be B tier too. It's fallen off a bit. Going to put it into A tier, and Do you see it once again, guys? It is one of the most common offensive typings are fighting types. Lucario being a fighting type, having access to close combat, just makes him such a dangerous mon. And the difference with Gallade in this example is that Lucario has access to extreme speed, which can make him a really solid mon against offensive teams as well. Choice Scarf Gallade is solid against offensive teams, but if you're not Scarf, then you're most likely slower. But Lucario naturally speeds a lot of things. It's faster than Nidoking, for example. Nidoking, Mamoswine, Togekiss. And access to a pretty cool move pool like Close Combat, Extreme Speed. Those two are given. He can run Meteor Mash. He can run Ice Punch. You can run Crunch. And mostly run with Swords Dance. I used him a few times with a Choice Band. You can run him especially offensive as well with Nasty Plot, or because he has access to Aura Sphere or Focus Blast. You can use Flash Cannon, you can use Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball, Vacuum Wave for the priority, Fighting Stab. The reason I'm not putting him into S tier, of course, is because he's slower than Hydreigon, slower than Garchomp, so you could kill him. But yeah, the extreme speed. If he does get off an extreme speed and you have Hazard Sub, this Pokemon can become a really dangerous sweeper. And his Fighting Steel type, which is pretty unique, means that if your opponent is using a Weavile and just pursued something, Lucario can come in and Swords Dance, and that can be a really scary situation. However, though, his special attack is higher than his physical attack, I believe, but his physical move pool is, in my opinion, a bit better. His physical set is a bit better as well. If only he was a bit faster, then he could have gotten off more close combats. That would be a bit broken, because then you would be looking at Mega Lucario. But yeah, that's gonna be Lucario. Next up we have Magnezone. I'm gonna be putting Magnezone into the B tier. You see a lot of Skarmories running Rocky Helmet. You don't see Magnezone that much anymore. And the reason is one of the most common electric types in the game is Rotom Wash. And if you're running a Rotom with a Magnezone, then you have two Volt Switchers, meaning that if your opponent has a ground type, something like a Gastrodon, then two of your mons are already useless. So typically having two Volt Switches is not that good. And it also means you have two special attackers on the team. In this metagame, you don't really want to be stacking up on the special attackers that much, especially when you're playing balanced, because then Blissey is just gonna wall the majority. Blissey or Chance is going to wall the majority of your team. Well, because yeah, breaking past a Blissey with neutral damage or past a Chansey with neutral special damage is really difficult. Yeah, I also don't see Magnezone as much. Can be a decent one, but it does also require a lot of team building, because he has a double weakness to ground, so you need that ground immunity. But he's also weak to fighting, which, like I said, is the most common. So you need that fighting resist or immunity as well. And Magnezone can get shot down by ground types, or you need to predict with Flash Cannon. Like, there's a lot of thinking, and it's not gonna be easy putting him into any team. Like, you need specific synergy with Magnezone. But yeah, can still be a solid pick. And if you want to get rid of Skarmories, because Skarmory is rarely running Shed Shell these days. Mostly you see Rocky Helmet. In tournaments, I've seen a few leftovers variants. But yeah, that's Magnezone. Now we have the Mamoswine, guys. Mamoswine, and yeah, guys, I'm going to put Mamoswine into the S tier. And this is something a lot of people might not agree with, but hear me out, guys. Look at all these Pokemon. If your name is not Rotom Wash, how well you're gonna switch into this Mamoswine. Bronzong was the example. But if Mamoswine does neutral damage to something, that Pokemon is still going to take a lot of damage. And with the metronome boosting the damage in consecutive use or with a choice band, it's gonna be difficult if your name is not Rotom Wash. That's the thing. Offensive ice types in the game generally are not great, but offensive the ice typing is one of the best offensive offensive typings to have, because you hit dragon types, you hit ground types, and even flying types like Togekiss, which can be really annoying. So it's gonna give you a lot of offensive pressure. And yeah, if you don't have an ice type resist and you're facing a Mamoswine, yeah, good luck switching into that guy. And yeah, he has access to Stealth Rock. You can still play this on stall because he's just doing a lot of damage. With a thick fat ability, he can live Fairy Dance from a +1 Volcarona, for example, which is insane because ice types and fire types do reduce damage on Mamoswine. The typings to reduce damage. And yeah, Earthquake, Icicle Crash is just Icicle Spear is such great coverage. Like I mentioned, if your name is not Rotom Wash, then you're not gonna do well. And if it's Joyce Bennett, that superpower is almost gonna take half of Rotom Wash's HP, or even more. It's even going to take half. That's why I'm putting him there. For the faster things, he does have priority in Ice Shard. He does have that fighting weakness though, but here, because here's the thing: if you have, it's comparable to Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr does more damage, but Mamoswine does have the speed to still stay relevant. Has the bulk and just that offensive ice typing combined with a stab Earthquake. Like I said, if your name is not Rotom Wash, you're gonna have trouble. I'm putting Mamoswine into the S tier. Some people might not agree with me, but like I said, this is my opinion. Next up we have Mandibuzz. It kind of became the signature mon of one of my signature mons, and outside of PokeMMO, I don't even play it that much, but it just provides what I want usually in my mons. Personally, I would put it into A tier, but if I were to recommend Mandibuzz to others, I would probably put it into the B tier. But like I said, this is gonna be my opinion. Okay, so I'm gonna put him into the A tier. And here's the thing, guys. All the Dragon Dance sweepers in the game, Mandibuzz will beat them. Salamence, Dragonite, Gyarados, Exorus, whatever. Kingdra, I don't know. I just mumbling. Mandibuzz comes in. He's gonna live a +1, +2, +3, and just hit him back with Foul Play and get a kill, which is so freaking great. Mandibuzz getting access to U-Turn. I use U-Turn a lot, which allows for so much playmaking. He has access to Defog if your team needs a Defogger. Getting rid of Stealth Rock, really nice. Access to Taunt to shut down defensive Pokemon. You can even use Brave Bird if you really want to do something against those fighting types, because fighting types do resist the Foul Play. And there are a bunch of options. You can run Toxic as well. The only issue with Mandibuzz, if a Stealth Rocker has Toxic, that is something Mandibuzz doesn't like facing. Because if you get a Toxic on Mandibuzz, then his walling potential is going to be really limited. Obviously, he's weak to Stealth Rocks as well, but he does have or she, because Mandibuzz is a 100% female mod, I believe. I'm sorry, guys. Mandibuzz has an immunity to Spikes and Toxic Spikes. Does have that weakness to Stealth Rock though. But yeah, as a wall, and I used it as a special wall a lot in the past as well, as it can come in on those special attacks really well. Usually doesn't die. and get off the U-turn. Like, the U-turn is super effective on Hydreigon. The way I used it. Also, versus Superior, coming in, clicking U-turn, bringing in my Weavile, those kind of things. Like a U-turn pivot doesn't. Manibus does it really well too. But yeah, Manibus doesn't like dealing with poison, like with Toxic or Sludge Bomb from stuff like Weezing and Among Us. Just because Manibus doesn't really like to get status. Weakness to Stealth Rock, but really well into Gallade as well. If your opponent doesn't have Stealth Rock up, then you wall Gallade really well. Like, Gallade has to click Sacred Sword versus you. Like, Ice Punch is not gonna do it KO you even when they choice band. He has to click Sacred Sword versus you. But if you have a fighting resist, like an Among Us, for example, on your team as well, then it's gonna be really difficult for Gallade if Gallade is choice card or choice banded. If he's live, or Manibus is gonna sit there and eat that up. But yeah, that's gonna be Manibus. Next up we have Metagross. I actually recently used it in a tournament because Metagross can be really decent. I am putting him though. I'm gonna put him into the A tier. You mostly see him on Hyper Offense as a Stealth Rocker, but yeah, I used him as a choice banner. You can run him as a choice Scarfer as well. His special attack is really decent as well. You can run Psychic, Hidden Power, Fire with Icy Wind, for example. He has access to Grass Knot, but he also has access to the Elemental Punches, Thunder Punch and Fire. Not Fire Punch, Thunder Punch and Ice Punch. Yeah, Meteor Mash, Hammer Arm, Earthquake. He has access to Agility too. I believe he gets Home Claws. You can run him as an Assault Vest user. Yeah, no, his overall stats are amazing. Aside from his speed is a bit mediocre. But then you would get a broken Pokemon like Mega Metagross. Yeah, also priority and Bullet Punch. Like, really versatile mod. You don't see it much as Stall, I believe. But yeah, on offense and balance, I think it can be okay. But it's mostly used as a Stealth Rock Suicider on Hyper Offense. But yeah, I think this one, just his stats, Pseudo Legendary, his typing, his Steel Psychic typing, like he has the Steel typing, which is really, really amazing. And yeah, he has the same defense stat as a Hippo, and just to give you guys an idea of how strong that guy's, and even a higher attack stat. So I'm putting him into the A tier, and I did look at his win rate as well, because I was doing some research when I was playing him. I used a choice band set, which was really funny. Yeah, I'm gonna be putting Metagross into the A tier. However, I don't think you can put Metagross into any team. Metagross needs to fill a certain role. You cannot just get a Metagross and put him into a team. It's not gonna work. Mienshao. Gonna put Mienshao into the A tier as well. Amazing speed, outspeeding Garchomp. Slower than Superior though. And Infernape, and Gengar, and whatever, Starmie. But yeah, if you talk about versatility, then Mienshao is your mod. Like, you can run him Choice Bandit. He's gonna do a lot of damage. And you can run him with a Life Orb. Still gonna do a lot of damage. You can switch up moves. You can run him with a Choice Scarf if you need some speed on your team. Oh, you can run him with an Assault Vest, running him as a special defensive wall, which is one of his most common used sets as well, because of his Regenerator ability. Like, Regenerator really makes this mod. And with the Assault Vest, you actually have an answer to Hydreigon. You have a check to Volcarona, while still having access to Close Combat or High Jump Kick. You see the trend again, guys. Fighting types. They are it's the most common just because, yeah, this guy with a life orb fake out can be scary too. I'm not putting him into S tier because he is frail and he doesn't have Mach Punch, for example. Like a strong Mach Punch, like Breloom. He doesn't. His priority is fake out. I believe he does get Vacuum Wave. Don't quote me on this. I know he gets Aura Sphere, but yeah, close combat just hits way harder than those other moves. You can run a mix though with Hidden Power Rise to catch Gliscor, but I just don't think he's gonna be at S tier, at S tier mod. Just because his offensive stats are not as great as Breloom, a bit weaker, but yeah, versatility wise offers you a lot, and you can put this into a lot of teams as well. Just if you look at terms of power, he doesn't he's a bit weaker than the Pokemon in the S tier. Next Pokemon is going to be Milotic. I actually won tournaments, other games with Milotic. But I'm putting Milotic into the D tier. And especially because there are other bulky water types that just can do his job but better. You have Suicune, which does his job better. You're Jellicent too. But yeah. The thing with Milotic is you're gonna use him as a most likely a special wall, maybe a physical wall with Flame Orb. It's possible, but he doesn't get Stealth Rock like Gastrodon does. He does get status moves though, but yeah, the pure water typing is kind of what's doing it. Because if you want to use a pure water typing, you might as well use Suicune. But here's the thing, if you want to have a bulky Milotic on a physical wall, you have to use a Flame Orb. The Flame Orb means you don't have leftovers, so you're always going to be on a timer. If you run Milotic as a special wall, here's the thing, with a pure water type as a special wall, I don't really like, because the most common special attacks are Volt Switch, maybe Giga Drain or Leaf Storm, like Grass Ups from Amoonguss Superior. Volcarona runs Giga Drain as well. Gotta be dealing with those attacks. As a pure water type, it's not beneficial for you. And like I said, Volt Switch being the most common one. And you need something else to come in on the Volt Switch. So you might need another special wall or especially defensive Pokemon on your team to aid Milotic, which is going to limit your team building. And he has a physical wall, having that Flame Orb, and not having access to Stealth Rock, kind of doing it there. Milotic is not gonna sweep games. It's just gonna delay your loss. It's gonna delay the game per opponent, but eventually, I'm pretty sure it has a low win rate too. I don't want to go on too much about this mon. Next up, we have Nidoking. I got really excited when he got his hidden ability. And I'm a bit, yeah, how do you say it? I'm a bit disappointed. Because he definitely has the tools to be good. But last time I checked his win rate, it was a while back. It wasn't that great. So I don't know if people don't know how to use Nidoking. Maybe Nidoking isn't that great either. I know, especially with the Assault Vest, like Assault Vest Mienshao, still really common. Comes in, Mienshao doesn't do it KO. He U-turns, and with Nidoking's speed, he's slower than Garchomp, he's slower than Hydreigon, he's slower than Excadrill. And now, actually, I think I introduced it. Gliscor that is faster than Nidoking. Like fast Gliscor. I think I introduced it because before I brought that, people stopped attacking with Lucario, on Gliscor when I was using Speedy Gliscor. Like, I probably have an effect on the meta, but it's Nidoking's. It's well, Nidoking is mostly struggling with his speed. But I'm gonna put him into the C tier. I don't think he's quite D tier. He's too good to be D tier. But yeah, from the way people are playing him, and his speed stat, he he can only run 4 moves. That's also one of the issues with him, because he has amazing coverage, but you want Earth Power, you kind of want Ice Beam, and Substitute would be nice on him. Taunt would be nice on him. You can run Stealth Rock on him. You can run Protect on him. But sometimes you want to run Sludge Wave to hit Rod of Wash. Flamethrower can be nice too. Thunderbolt can be nice too. And if you're lacking the right move, then you might get hard wall. Like Ferret, if you don't have Flamethrower, Ferrothorn is gonna sit there. Blissey, Chansey obviously completely wall you. Even if you run Superpower, you gotta catch them. Or Focus Punch, you gotta catch them. And then they still don't die. So yeah, there are definitely some issues with Nidoking, but yeah, this boy can be a real powerhouse if you can set it up correctly. And that's why he probably belongs into C tier as well. Like, he needs a specific team built around him. And you need to set up for him as well. That's Nidoking. Next up, we have the Pelipper. And yeah, honestly, I have to put him into B tier because Inside Rain, he is the Rain staple. I still think he's better than Politoed. Politoed is Drizzle now too, but yeah, if I'm running a Rain team, I'm choosing Pelipper over Politoed unless I need something from Politoed. So I'm just gonna put him into B tier, best Rain setter. But yeah, obviously you cannot fit him into any team. Not much I need to say about Pelipper. Often used defensively, sometimes run with a choice scarf or choice specs offensively, but then he won't be having a damp rock. Poliwrath, I'm gonna put Poliwrath into the C tier. Yeah, like, he has a cool niche in his belly drum. That's why I'm putting him into C tier over D tier. If he didn't have Swift Swim, then I would put him into D tier. But yeah, he can be a really scary sweeper under rain if he gets up a belly drum. But that's about it. Aside from belly drum, not that scary, not that great. Doesn't really fit into many teams. Why we're gonna put him into the C tier. I'm gonna go a bit faster into the next ones. Porygon 2. I am putting the Porygon 2 tough one. I'm debating between B or C tier. Gonna put him into the C tier here, just because if I'm choosing a bulky normal type, then Chansey or Blissey is probably comes in mind first. Porygon does have access to Teleport, but so does Blissey and Chansey. Blissey has access to Thunderbolt and Ice Beam, and even Flamethrower, which Porygon doesn't have access to, and use Toxic as well. The only thing Porygon has going for him is obviously he's physically defensive, he's more bulky, and he has the Trace ability to copy Intimidate or Multiscale, or he has a download ability to raise his special attack to do more damage against offensive Pokemon. But Chansey and Blissey have access to Stealth Rock, and in a lot of cases, in a lot of balanced teams, for example, you want to have your walls being one of the Stealth Rockers. You want to use your offensive Pokemon for offensive purpose, just in most cases. So if you're running a Porygon and something as Estor Stealth Rock, which might limit your team building, so I'm just gonna put him into the C tier. Still, can be a good mon, but you are going to need him for specific things. Quagsire got the... So Quagsire did get a buff, but honestly, I'm not gonna put him in. I'm not rating Quagsire really high on his own. He does have the Unaware ability, so he ignores stat changes from the opponent. So Dragonite Dragon Dancing up. He's gonna ignore stat changes. However, his HP is pretty decent, but his defensive stats are not great. And if someone runs a Choice Band, then Unaware doesn't matter. You're gonna break through him with Choice Band and Close Combat, for example, Life or Close Combat, Choice Band and Dragon Claw, Choice Band and Earthquake, those kind of things. If has its up. If he was a bit more bulky, he would have been extremely great. But he isn't as tanky as other specials like Hippowdon takes physical attacks better. Gastrodon takes special attacks better. Gastrodon probably is a better option as well. And yeah, the thing that Quagsire does have is Toxic Spikes. You can rid Stealth Rock or Spikes as well, I believe. At least Spikes. He has access to reliable recovery like Recover, but so has Gastrodon. But I feel like Gastrodon provides more bulkiness because overall his defense and special defense are a bit better than Quagsire in my opinion. Combine it. That's why I'm putting him into the C tier. Doesn't really provide much outside of Stall either, and inside Stall you really need specific team building to let this guy shine. Next up we have a Raikou, whatever. Gonna put Raikou into the B tier. Still fairly new, not overwhelming, maybe a bit underwhelming. You might debate that he might belong into the C tier. Putting him into the B tier though, it's slower than Jolteon, but it's bulkier. So, for example, it's not gonna die to Tyranitar, the Assault-Vest Tyranitar clicking Pursuit on you switching, for example. You would probably live that. It's not gonna take as much from a Mach Punch. It's not gonna take as much from a Bullet Punch. He's a bit bulkier. I believe his special attacks is also higher than a bit higher than Jolteon. And Raikou in this game has access to Aura Sphere, which helps him hit steel types like a Ferrothorn, for example, which can be really nice. Excadrill, which can do really well into Jolteon, but Raikou can hit them with super effective damage. And Tyranitar, 4 times super effective Aura Sphere, even though Tyranitar might take it really well still. And similarly, also access to Calm Mind, of course. Also access to Scald if you want to go that route. But against offensive teams, Raikou is really decent. Because it outspeeds the majority. It speed ties Starmie, and the most common offensive team is Smurf team like Volcarona, Garchomp, Breloom, Scizor, Starmie, Dragonite. That team Raikou outspeeds everything and speed ties with Starmie, and if Garchomp dies, he Volt switches around, but he can hit a Power Rise on the Garchomp. That's why Raikou would be really good against offensive teams. A bit worse against defensive teams, obviously, because defensive teams will have a ground type, they will have Chansey and Blissey. So Raikou has to go through all that to do something. But it can be nice, because you can switch in Raikou. Unlike Jolteon, you can switch in Raikou to certain attacks, and then as a pivot and a Volt switch around. But I'll keep him into B tier. This list might change over time. Will change over time. Reuniclus. Reuniclus is one of those Pokemon that I can add to the list of Pokemon I hate. I'm always afraid of sweeping. Because his Magic Guard ability makes it so he doesn't take passive damage from Stealth Rock, Sandstorm, or Burn, or Poison. Badly Poison. And then he's gonna and he has reliable recovery in Leftovers and Recover. And then he has Calm Mind. Really annoying Pokemon to face, but the thing with Reuniclus is you cannot use him as a main physical wall, because Reuniclus is gonna take too much from U-turn. His defensive set is not that great. It's really similar to the Jellicent situation. A lot of physical attackers have the potential to 2-hit KO if they have something like a choice band on them. And Reuniclus cannot really be used as a special wall because he's gonna be too weak on the physical side and he's weak to pursuit. So you want to have a defensive bulk. However, if Reuniclus is able to set up with Calm Mind, you can run into a lot of annoying sets. You can run into Calm Mind Iron Defense, and then with stored powers. And if you don't have a Dark type, it's gonna be a nightmare. You can run into Psyshock, Psychic, Focus Blast, Calm Mind, Recover, which is really good coverage on Reuniclus' side. So if you don't have anything that can kill, and physical attackers that can kill Reuniclus, you might have an issue there. But yeah, he can also suddenly Trick Room on you in a late game situation and then sweep you with Life Orb, Psychic, Focus Blast, Shadow Ball, those kind of things. Yeah, like I said, you cannot just put Reuniclus on any team. So I am debating whether I'm putting him into A or B tier. So this is something I gotta think about as well. But for Reuniclus now, I'm gonna put him into the B tier. Just because I think Reuniclus on his own, like he does need to fit a team. You do need to build around him. You can just not put him into any team and have consistent results. Yeah, that's Reuniclus. Next up we have Rotom Wash. We already mentioned him a few times. I'm gonna put him into the A tier. Like I said, the most common Volt Switch user in the game. Probably one of the most used Defog users as well. A lot of guys like to run Trick on Rotom, just to be annoying. He has access to Nasty Pot if you really want to be crazy. A lot of times you see Will-O-Wisp. A lot of Rotoms these days run Toxic because of the rise of Gastrodon. But really consistent Mon, really bulky water type. Like I said, better than Milotic. Because if Milotic got flip turn, then I might rate him higher. But I might rate Milotic higher on the list. But yeah, Rotom, you can switch into Rotom, then Volt Switch into something else. And Rotom is one of the Pokemons that can reliably deal with the Mamoswine. But yeah, I don't need to say much about Rotom. Like, if you play OU, then you know what Rotom Wash does. So he's gonna be A tier. Like, I don't think he is like top tier, overpowered or anything. He needs to be an S tier. Like, you can put him into pretty much any team as well, but in terms of power, it's not similar to the S tier in my opinion. Next up we have Salamence. Here's the thing, guys. Salamence is in an awkward position. He's too good for UU, but a bit mediocre for OU. I wouldn't say he's D tier. I'm gonna put him into that C tier. And you would expect more. But here's the thing, guys. Again, Salamence kinda gets outclassed by the Dragonite. Because Draco Meteor is pretty similar in both cases. Dragonite still has a pretty decent special attack. Salamence has a bit higher special attack. But really, it's really the multi-skill. Because Salamence does die to a Dragon Pulse from a Hydreigon, for example. Well, Salamence is faster than Hydreigon though, so that's the thing he has over him. Yeah, as a Dragonite sweeper, he doesn't come close to Dragonite because he does like Dragon Claw. Pretty similar. I think Dragonite is a bit more scary. Dragonite has access to extreme speed. Salamence doesn't have priority. Dragonite has access to the elemental punches, which Salamis doesn't have access to. Salamis doesn't get Ice Beam or Ice Punch. That's a thing. And for a mixed set as well, like Dragon Knight has access to Superpower. Salamis has to make do with Brick Break. I've seen it a few times. Again, no extreme speed on Salamis, and both have access to Roost. Salamis does have access to Intimidate, but that only works against physical attackers. Basically, Salamis will die to Ice Shard from full HP, and Dragon Knight doesn't. That's really the thing as well. Like, it's really the multi-skill ability of Dragon Knight that just makes him outclass Salamis so much, and him having access to extreme speed. And yeah, Salamis isn't bad. Like, you could put him higher, but as a special attacker, he does get walled by Blissey, Chansey, and like, even if they run Brick Break, it's not gonna do an extreme amount to them. While Superpower does do that. So yeah, Salamis. I would almost put him into D tier, honestly, but I put him in C tier just because his Draco Meteors do hurt, his Hurricanes do hurt, so does Dragon Knight. Scizor, yeah, a lot of you would probably put him here. I'm gonna put Scizor into A tier though. Definitely a really scary sweeper. Priority, so similar to Breloom, but it is really you would put him like it wouldn't be wrong to put him here, but I have him here because Scizor is usually something you do prepare for because you don't want to get Bullet Punch swept. And yeah, Rotom Wash is just so common. And a lot of Rotoms actually run speed to outspeed Scizor, so and then they run Will-O-Wisp. Like, for Scizor to be a threat, this Scizor cannot really Sword Stance up for free. Like, if there's a Sword Stance and a Will-O-Wisp, then Rotom comes in. Rotom can Volt Switch as well, like double resistance on Scizor, and Scizor. Here's the thing with Scizor: if you run Sword Stance, it's usually with 3 attacks, which means Scizor is always going to be on the timer. So you have Rocky Helmet, you have Rough Skin, those kind of abilities as well. Breloom is faster, so Breloom can hit him with the Mach Punch first. If Scizor doesn't have Acrobatics, Conkeldurr can Drain Punch everything back. Like, Scizor does need a bit of preparation to succeed, but yeah, like you guys know, Scizor is one of the scariest mounts to face. But I don't think he is. He could be S tier. Honestly, he could be S tier. I just leave him in A tier, just because you have to prepare for Scizor, and if you are prepared for Scizor, then Scizor doesn't straight up sweep. Obviously, he can be choice banded too, which can be annoying. I'd rather face the choice band set because at least you know what damage he's gonna do to you. But if he Sword Stance, then he can have different coverage moves, which can be annoying. But in a lot of cases, Scizor doesn't one-shot something without a Sword Stance, which all of these offensive mounts can actually do. That's why I'm not like, he needs that Sword Stance first, or with a choice band he needs a bit of damage on something. So you still need to do some work with Scizor. And you cannot just put Scizor on any team. Like, you do need ways to get Scizor in as well, or to keep him healthy or whatever. He does need entry hazard support. If you have a Scizor and you don't have Stealth Rock or Spikes, then Scissors going to be way less effective. Yeah, he's gonna be in A tier. Then we have Seismitoad. Gonna put Seismitoad. What is it here? I'm gonna put him into C tier, honestly. Seismitoad only really works on rain, and even on rain, you can still use stuff like Garchomp for the rain as well. This is only going to work on rain, but you're gonna take a spot for something else. Like you can run this as a rain sweeper. Like it's debatable to put him here because he is pretty good on rain, but if the rain is over, then Kabutops can still use Aqua Jet, for example. Can still do a lot of damage. Kingdra still does a lot of damage with Dragon Pulse or Draco Meteor, but his damage is completely gone without Weather Ball. So I'm just gonna put him out. Does have access to Power Whip, hit Run and Wash. But yeah, outside of rain, not really good. Might be better if he gets the Water Absorb ability. But then again, you have Gastrodon, so I'm not sure how well Seismitoad would be. But yeah, the Seismitoad Superior. This is a tough one because Superior. It's a choice between putting Superior into the S tier or into the A tier. However, I'm gonna put him into A tier because Superior is a Pokemon I hate facing, but I also hate using because Leaf Storm with Contrary is freaking powerful. But if you miss Leaf Storm, you can do that in a lot of annoying situations. You can miss Leaf Storm on something you're about to kill, like a Chansey, and then they hit you with Toxic. You can miss Leaf Storm on an incoming attack, like a super effective attack. It's just annoying. That's the only thing, missing the Leaf Storm. If Leaf Storm had better accuracy, I would definitely put him here. It's still fair if you put him into the S tier, gotta say, because yeah, his speed tier is amazing. Really bulky, typically doesn't die from neutral attacks, but just because I hate using him, missing the Leaf Storms, I'm putting him into the A tier. If he had more reliable accuracy, then I would put him here, because all these guys, Close Combat, reliable accuracy, Earthquake, reliable accuracy, Dragon Claw, reliable accuracy, but the multi-skill, of course. That's why I'm putting him into the A tier. Shaman, I'm gonna put him straight into the D. Shaman is getting the D. It's such a shame. Like, we have this guy here. We have Amoonguss here. We don't need Shaman. And we even have Ferrothorn there, so no Shaman needed. Doesn't get a setup move like Calm Mind. Doesn't get Taunt. Doesn't get Stealth Rock. So it doesn't even provide hazard entry for us. So no, we don't need this, man. And Seed Flare, 85 accuracy, I believe. Like, you might as well run Superior then if you're going for the Seed Flare damage. Skarmory, yeah, Skarmory, I'm gonna put him into the A tier next to Chansey. You can put him into a lot of teams. Like you can run him in hyper offense as a hazard setter. He has access to Taunt, is sturdy, so typically able to get up at least Stealth Rock. Yeah, solid wall, and that's usually the benchmark. Like whenever you're building a team, your team needs to be able to break through Skarmory with something. So yeah, really solid mon. Steel typing, of course, resisting Dragon, like Dragonite. Dragonite has Fire Punch, so yeah, overall solid mon. Access to Stealth Rock and Spikes if you need that. You can even use Defog. You can use Roar to get you out of scary situations. The Raptor, gonna put him into the D tier. He's getting the D as well. You might as well be running Darmanitan if you play Staraptor. Because if you're running with a Choice Scarf, you're not really one-shotting walls, and they can hit you back. Like, you need to get them in on something you can kill. With a Choice Band, you can actually kill a wall, but you're running the Reckless ability, you're gonna take recoil, you have to be dealing with Stealth Rocks, so much to consider. And in the end, Staraptor is never gonna sweep a game. You're probably gonna get one kill, and then you're gonna get killed off by a priority move. Like because you're a normal type as well, Mach, which is gonna be neutral. It's basically a Pokemon which you go 1-for-1 with, and sometimes you don't even get that kill. It's really it's really not inconsistent. So yeah, I would advise staying away from this guy. Like, you might as well use Darmanitan if you want to go for physical powerhouse. Starmie, I am going to put Starmie into the S tier, and yeah, some people might hate me on this, but every hyper offense team, almost every hyper offense team, will use Starmie as their rapid spinner. Yeah, for good reasons. It's one of the fastest rapid spinner, might be even the fastest, I don't know, in PokeMMO. So that means he gets a guaranteed rapid spin off, access to natural cure. So if he tries to rapid spin something like Gliscor, you don't have to worry about toxic, because you can switch out natural cure. If you want to run it more offensively, you can run analytic, because Starmie has great coverage: Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Bolt Beam, we call it Surf, Psychic, Psyshock. You can run a hidden power as well. You can run bulky Starmie with rapid spin, recover, and toxic, for example. He has access to reflect type. Like, you can put him into a lot of teams, and yeah, it's probably the fastest rapid spinner, if I have to think about it. So pairs up really well with Dragonite. That's why you have to see Dragonite and Starmie often together in hyper offense, just because he gets rid of their Stealth Rock, then rapid spin, then Dragonite keeps his multi-scale, just because of the rapid spin and his speed and yeah, natural cure. I think this guy deserves to be S tier. Like, Starmie is the best rapid spinner in the game, but offensively has a lot of pressure. Can run Psyshock to hit Blissey on the physical side as well, and if you run it with Analytic, it's gonna be extra damage. Yeah, overall, really nice. Next up, we have Suicune. Suicune, I'm going to put him straight into the S tier. Suicune, also one of the Pokemon you need to prepare for. You cannot have a team that cannot kill Suicune. Because if this guy comments up and you don't have anything to do with him, then yeah, good luck. The Suicune, so freaking bulky, mostly used with a bold nature. Can be run with a timid nature as well. But mostly bold, and yeah, you're not killing a Suicune with neutral damage, unboosted at least. So you really gotta overpower him, or yeah, stall break him, make sure he doesn't get to use rest, kind of things. But yeah, Suicune can always skull burn you in the worst case scenario for him. And yeah, if you cannot kill him and he starts skull mining up, then you're just gonna get swept. Like, you can obviously delay him by using haze or roar, but his pressure ability is going to activate, and he's eventually gonna PP stall you out. You need to be able to kill him. That's why I'm putting him into the S tier. It just requires you to build against him, and yeah, really high defensive stats. Like I said, it completely outclasses Milotic. I'm putting Suicune into the S tier, and yeah, Suicune, Swampert. I'm gonna put Swampert into. I'm gonna put him into the C tier. We have Gastrodons, basically similar to Quagsire, and Toad, I guess. But yeah, I'm gonna use the same explanation, guys. We have... Actually, guys, no. I'm gonna put him even in here. Because Quagsire actually has access to recover and can use stealth rockets. So it wouldn't be fair to put him in the same row as Quagsire. I'm gonna put him into the D tier. It's better to stay away from this mon. Even though it's a cool mon, I think it's better to stay away from him. Tentacruel. Tentacruel. I'm gonna put Tentacruel into the C tier. Tentacruel does have that poison typing. I think it would be better as a physical wall. If his stats allowed it, but his stats say special because his special defense is higher and is really high. His defense stat is mediocre, but because he had that poison typing, would be if you like Toxapex. If he was like Toxapex, that would have been cool. But yeah, he's a rapid spinner. Can be solid. Really good at Volcarona answer if it doesn't run Psychic. If you want to stop Volcarona. Against Suicune, it's gonna lose out on the PP stall. But yeah, versus Rain, can hold its own a bit. But he lacks reliable recovery in something like Slack Off or Recover. If it gets knocked off or burned, he's basically... Eventually he's gonna die. Like, just a matter of time in that sense. Does have access to Toxic Spikes. Does have access to Haze. But, yeah, if you're trying to run a Pokewater type, you might as well run Suicune. And if you want to run as a fighting resistor immunity, you might as well run Jellicent. But yeah, you can run him on specific teams. If you have a specific need for him, then Tentacruel could be your guy. But as a rapid spinner, Starmie would probably be more consistent as well. Togekiss is basically the same thing as Reuniclus. However, I put Togekiss above Reuniclus because Togekiss, yeah, man. Air Slash, you guys know what Togekiss does, but him getting access to that Calm Mind is just insane. Because in the past, we were able to check him with something like Magnezone, but if Togekiss now sets up Calm Minds, he's not gonna care about Magnezone. He's not gonna care about Rotom Wash if Rotom Wash doesn't have Nasty Plot. Then Raikou needs to run Calm Mind alongside it. And if you try to status him, he's going to click Heal Bell. And yeah, he can be running a Choice Scarf as well. If you don't have anything that can deal with that, your whole team is going to get swept by Air Slash because he's just going to spam it. It's such a frustrating Pokemon to deal with. The reason I'm not putting him into S tier is obviously because of his speed. Because if he's not running a Choice Scarf, then a lot of things will outspeed him. The most common used nature on him is probably the Bolt nature, maybe Timid, but a lot of them don't run max speed. So even stuff like Mamoswine, I can check him as well, even though they have the same speed stat. But yeah, his speed is really the reason I'm not putting him into S tier, because he is really bulky on the physical and the special defensive side. But yeah, does lack into speed, and if he's running a Choice Scarf, he might be lacking Heal Bell or something, so he can Toxic him perhaps. Torkoal, yeah, Torkoal is a Sun stable. I think Torkoal is still better than Ninetales as a Sunsetter. Just gonna put him into the B tier. Like I said, basically same story. Toxicroak. Gonna put Toxicroak here alongside Seismitoad. Outside of Rain, I don't think Toxicroak is that great. Does pretty decent for Suicune, but that's all it does. Does have access to that close combat, but if we have stronger close combat users here, we have Mach Punch priority. He does have Sucker Punch priority though. But outside of Rain, I don't think Toxicroak is that great, so just gonna leave him at C. Then we have Tyranitar. Some would probably put him here. I'll put Tyranitar into the A tier. offensive wise, his speed is really holding him back. He's just too slow to have major impact. If he was faster than Breloom, like you can run him Jolly, but then he's gonna lose a lot of his power. Like you want to have Adamant behind his name for the damage. As a Stealth Rocker, there are better options. You can run Assault Vest, but then you don't have any recovery on him, so you need something like Wish, or if you want to run Leftovers, you want to have the Bug from Assault Vest. So it's just Tyranitar is really good, but it's not. It's always lacking something, and that's why I'm not putting him into the S tier. Also having the quadruple fighting weakness, so Mach Punch completely destroying him is a thing as well. But Tyranitar checks a lot of mana. Really good into rain teams because rain teams don't like to come in on Stone Edge, and it's removing the rain, of course. Now, with Tyranitar there, only a few more to go. I have Umbreon here. I'm gonna put Umbreon into the C tier. Yeah, come on, guys. You have Chansey, Blissey. You have Manibus for the physical side. You want to run Foul Play, but yeah, you can run it for specific because you don't have Heal Bell and Foul Play together, so it doesn't care too much about the Toxic that much, especially with Synchronize. You can run Inner Focus as well. That's how I played it for a while to not get flinched by Gyarados. But yeah, it's a special wall there. Can't say Blissey just better, and Mandibuzz better as a physical wall. So gonna leave him at C. Then we have Venusaur. Gonna put Venusaur. Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm just gonna put him next to the B tier. Basically same story as Kingdra and Kabutops. Only really fits on Sun. Outside of Sun, it can be decent sometimes, but outside of Sun, I would probably put it into C. Yeah, with the Sun, like it's a Sun Sweeper stable to have, so I'm gonna put him there. Now we have Volcarona. I think this is the cheapest mon. Not cheap in the sense of price, but this cheap in the sense of how it is played. I'm not gonna put him into S tier though. I'm gonna put him into A tier, but I do think Volcarona in PokeMMO is quite overpowered in the sense that it can run so many sets, and him not having to worry about Heatran is such a major thing. Like it never has to run Hidden Power Ground, meaning he can use Hidden Power Ice to hit dragons. He can run Giga Drain, he can run Bug Buzz, you can run Psychic. You never really have to run Hidden Power Ground because there is no Heatran. Heatran plus Stealth Rock, that was the reason Volcarona wasn't overpowered in the past, but in this game I think Volcarona is quite overpowered. Like Fairy Dance, 50% chance to raise your stats, like your special attack, Quiver Dance, boosting 3 stats up, and yeah, some Volcaronas are like bold defensive, really difficult to kill, can be really annoying if you don't have a dedicated answer. But obviously the Life Orb ones are annoying as well. I even see Choice Specs U-turn on Volcarona, and yeah, Chansey has to run Toxic to stop this, otherwise it's gonna get overpowered, and Volcarona even has access to Safeguard to be immune to Toxic. Like, it's a scary one. I think it's cheap. Fairy Dance is such a cheap move. If it didn't have Fairy Dance, I would probably put it into B tier, but with the Fairy Dance, it's just you're rolling the dice, and if you get that boost, it just becomes scary. If you don't get that boost, then it can really suck for you. But I haven't been to A tier. Next up, we have Weavile. Gonna put Weavile into A tier as well. I think the most reliable, the fastest, most reliable physical attacker in the game. After use with a Choice Band, on Hyper Offense you sometimes see Swords Dance. On the Deeps you see Swords Dance as well. But the most consistent one is Choice Band, and that's because Weavile can use Pursuit, but unlike Tyranitar, Weavile is faster than a lot of things. Like it's faster than Starmie, so it can click Pursuit. And whether Starmie stays in or stays out, if Starmie took Stealth Rock damage, he's going to die, for example. Like you can force a lot of those situations. And having that offensive Ice typing, just like Mamoswine. However, Mamoswine has higher attack and he has access to that strong Earthquake, which Weavile is kind of lacking. Like he needs to get 5 hits on Icicle Spear to do significant damage. But you guys know it from watching my videos. You know, whenever you get those 2 hits, and yeah, Icicle Crash isn't as strong as it is on Mamoswine. So Weavile is just really good in checking offensive special attackers like Superior, Hydreigon, Garchomp. Just having him there, but he does have that quadruple fighting type weakness into Mach Punch. Does have that weakness into Bullet Punch as well. Pretty much any priority move he has the weakness in. So that's why he's not S tier. Put him into A tier there. But that's Weavile. Next up we have Weezing. I'm gonna put Weezing into the S tier. I think he has the best ability in the game. Like literally neutralizing the opponent's ability. Insane. Like you remove the Guts ability, you remove the Poison Heal ability. You remove, like you can click Toxic Spikes on an Espion coming in because you don't have to care about Magic Bounce. You can stay in. You can switch out against a Duck Trail because you won't have Arena Trap. Like getting rid of Levitate and letting Rotom and Hydreigon take spikes or Toxic Spikes damage. Like completely removing the opponent's ability is just so freaking powerful. And being a poison type as well, grounded, meaning that he removes Toxic Spikes. And again, one of the walls that has that resistance to fighting types. Lastly, I have Yanmega. These are basically the mons I think of when thinking about OU. But Yanmega, I'm gonna put Yanmega into the C tier. Choice Specs, Bug Bust, Tinted Lens, scary. I'm not really afraid of Speed Boost, but Tinted Lens, really scary to come into. But then again, killing the Yanmega is not really the problem because he's quite fast, but he needs to run a modest nature. And yeah, you have a bunch of things outspeeding Yanmega. If it's Joy Scarf, it's gonna lack a lot of power. So overall, he doesn't really have a setup move. Yeah, that's basically, guys, the tier list. I would say, so let me know in the comments what you think about this. Maybe you feel like something. Maybe I missed a Pokemon. Maybe you think something deserves to be higher or lower. Let me know in the comments. Again, keep it respectfully. This is just an opinion. And guys, also check out, because if you are looking at this tier list and you want to do something with it, like choosing the Pokemon for your team, then also make sure to check out my moveset guide playlist on YouTube. I'm going to try to fill in the playlist to have an example set for every one of these Pokemon in this tier list, just to help you guys out there. Obviously on my Patreon I have way more sets to showcase, but yeah, obviously if not everyone has the financial resources, so I will leave an example set for every one of these Pokemon eventually in the moveset guide playlist. Yeah guys, for the comments, look at the C and D tier lists and let me know if you have any cool sets you know of that can be used on those sets. But yeah, I'd like to hear from you guys. Hopefully a really long video, but hopefully it was helpful. And yeah, really difficult to do. Didn't have much time to prepare for this. As you guys can hear or maybe noticed, I do feel a bit sick at the moment, but I just wanted to have this video done. So thank you everyone for watching, And yeah, guys, have a wonderful day. Peace out. See you guys next time.